It's shiny. It's awesome. It's cool. It's a piece of
good.
hardware that I can give for my baby boy.
Porque eu não comi nada antes.
You know,
Não comi nada. Eu vim
absolutely.
treinar.
Hold on, I'm talking, brother. 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 Hold on, I'm talking, brother.
Hello and welcome back to Hold On, I'm Talking, Brother. I am your regular host, Joe Greenwood. I am joined by my regular co-host, Tom Ballum, to break down UFC 264, McGregor vs. Poirier. Tom, how you feeling?
I'm bummed, Joe. I'm bummed out.
Why?
I don't want to hit a sour note for the listeners as they come in here, but this card is the main card here. It's weak.
It's awful.
It's weak, Joe. Weak card. I've been sat here like the dedicated professional I am, preparing for tonight.
Yeah.
And I'm just, I'm just not motivated with some of the fights we got on here. So
Yeah, there's some stinkers, and well, actually, let's get into that now. I think you could make a potential card of the year if you mixed in some of these prelim fights into the main card. Can I give you my suggestion for how I would organise this main card and mixing up some of the prelim fights? Can I just...
Please do. Distract me from this pain that I'm feeling right now.
Personally, I would take O'Malley versus Moutinho off the main card because it's just obviously going to be a knockout, but I understand why that's going to be there. Just, all right, you can leave that on there. Aldana Kunitskaya and Tui Vasahadi, piss off. You are getting off my card. And to be honest...
Relegated.
To be honest, now you've got 3 fights that you could stick into those 2 positions there that would make this a banging card. I would personally open the pay-per-view. It's an obvious one. Nico Price versus Michel Pereira.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Backflips himself.
Yep.
That's a main card opener.
Yeah, I like it.
And do you remember, it's kind of reminded me of, do you remember there was I can't remember which pay-per-view it was, but it opened with Maheta versus Jimmy Manoa. Do you remember this?
Okay.
Do you remember this fight?
I remember the finish of the fight. But,
I rewatched this fight the other day actually. It's 6 minutes of carnage. And it is like Maheta's throwing like spinning kicks and fucking like he's just loading up and like no feinting. It's just like, here we go, boys. That's what you want. Nico Price versus Michel Pereira. And then personally, you could go with someone like Dricus du Plessis versus Trevin Giles, which would be a good shout. But I would personally go with the hipster's choice, Ryan Hall versus Ilia Topuria.
A lot of intrigue on that one. Yeah, Topuria.
Yeah, a lot
Spanish
of intrigue.
Georgian.
Yeah, a lot of intrigue. Yeah, I mean, this isn't no gimme for Hall here. Like some people, I'm a big Ryan Hall fan. I don't know about yourself. I believe you are, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Smart guy. Speaks well about the sports and breaks it down quite well, and interesting guy, interesting style. I mean, leg locking specialist in MMA. I mean, there are leg locking specialists in jiu-jitsu, particularly in no-gi jiu-jitsu, and Hall seems to have applied this to MMA now. But the problem is that he only fights once a year. It works out at, which is a shame.
Part of the problem there is no one will put their, no one will sign the contract.
According to Hall.
He is an awkward proposition. I mean, what are you getting from fighting Ryan Hall? What are you getting?
You'll never look good against him.
No.
And sometimes he doesn't even look good in winning. But yeah, it's probably you. To be honest though, I think you would get a lot from fighting Ryan Hall because I think he's quite popular in terms of like internet MMA fans of just like this guy is the real deal. So there will be eyes on any fight of his. So if you can beat him, which Topuria can do, Topuria's a fantastic fighter. He's got better striking than Hall in my mind, and he's got really good wrestling. So he might be able to keep Hall off of there.
Well, if you remember Hall's appearance on The Ultimate Fighter, it was the wrestler from the UK who actually ended him, neutralised him on the mat. Remember that? He looked very promising. I think he's fighting Bellator now. He had some visa issues with getting in fight on the finale. Do you remember this one? It was an English guy.
Oh, I've got absolutely no idea.
Yeah. Well, he's the one who beat Hall in The Ultimate Fighter, but then Hall was kind of ruled out.
But Hall fought in the final, didn't he? He beat Artem Lobov.
They brought him back. They brought him back. This guy, yeah, I've forgotten his name.
So
Forgive me.
I've clicked on Ryan Hall, long distance runner. So that's obviously not what I want right there. No, but he's got a very sort of strange. Saul Rogers is the guy you're thinking of.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, he
Had
is.
some criminal record issue that prevented him.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Oh, he's been.
But
Okay,
in the same mold anyway as Topuria, not to say the same fighter at all, but a dominant from the top position, strong wrestling base, and it did upset Hall. He wasn't able to perform as usual.
Yeah,
games.
I mean, I guess you could say that maybe that was 6 years ago now, so Hall has probably evolved from there and has added wrinkles to his game. And actually, I actually quite like Hall's striking. He's got some interesting sort of kicks that he throws out there. And I always like it when jiu-jitsu guys have like slightly wild striking, because they know that if it goes to the ground, they're going to be all right. So they can sort of like be reckless, which I quite like that. And I think Hall would be an interesting. It's an interesting proposition with Topuria, because if Topuria can beat him, he should get someone pretty highly ranked.
Well, 10-0, and that would be 3 for him in the UFC, so makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so our new main card in an ideal world, then revised in our new main card, chucking away and disposing of this old one. We'll have Hall, the hipster's choice.
Yes.
Right, and Price, the wild man.
Yeah.
And I guess you'd have that. So Price, he's opening.
Price, then Hall.
Right.
And then I go
like
O'Malley, Moutinho.
Okay. So it's kind of like you've got the wildness of Price, and then the palate cleanser of Hall, and then what is it? A shot? What's Sean O'Malley? He's a after dinner shot.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you just get the big lads out there.
Yeah, you get your your sort of meat and veg.
Mate, that's your late night kebab.
So what is like McGregor Poirier? Is that like the after dinner limoncello, or is that like the sort of what is that? Do you know what that is? That is haven't even gone to bed, but you're eating the leftover Chinese with a can of Stella at 6:30 in the morning.
There you go. That's the after party.
Yeah. Okay, I could get down for that on a night. But yeah, that would be my sort of place. But instead, we have not got that. But we'll get to this card in just a moment. But let's break down a little bit of news first.
Okay.
Interim heavyweight title fight at the next pay-per-view. Main event, Cyril Gane, who just beat Alexander Volkov, versus Derek Lewis for an interim title belt.
Scandalous.
It's
scandalous, Joe.
Insane. And Gane is not injured. He said, I'm ready to go in September. But because they want to have Derek Lewis in Houston in August, that takes priority over the heavyweight champion, which is insane. And you know what? It's super disrespectful. And also, I find it a little bit disrespectful to the co-main of that event, which is going to be Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena. Why can't Nunes headline a card? That shows that you have no faith in her as a draw. I mean, she's not a draw, for one. But two, I think they're missing out on what can make a great UFC card, is that you can have a pretty good main event. Nunes Pena is fine, it's whatever, it will do the job. You'll get to see a bit of carnage and ultimately an Amanda Nunes win. But underneath that, you could have 4 stacked fights if you wanted to sort of like back that up, to get the sort of like, the interest in from MMA fans, because that's who you're really going to be getting in this.
Yep.
And just save Ngannou versus Lewis for 1 month later. Yeah. Because the following month, we're going to talk about that card as well briefly, but that's going to have Volkanovski Ortega. Volkanovski Ortega, Ngannou versus Lewis. That's a stacked card. They just feel that every card has to be super stacked now, because for like the last year they've really nailed it. And the thought of having, a card which is pretty good, but not going to be a huge numbers, is not worth it. But I just don't think Derek Lewis versus Cyril Gane is going to be a huge draw anyway. Like, how many more pay-per-view buys is that going to draw in?
Doesn't move the needle for me. No,
Ngannou moves the needle.
Of course.
Ngannou is the draw in this. I love Derek Lewis, and I really like Cyril Gane as well, but I'm watching that to see Francis Ngannou, and it just really pisses me off because this ties into the UFC issue that I have with them, which is they want the brand to be the draw, not the fighters, when in reality, the fighters will always be the draw. And I just feel like, could you imagine if Eddie Hearn had Francis Ngannou and he was promoting Francis Ngannou? He would be a fucking superstar, and he would present him as such. It's just insane that like the UFC have got this guy who is like golden, who is the scariest heavyweight they've ever had. Oh, but no, Derek Lewis in Houston takes priority. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, you're completely right. I don't think there's anything for me to add to that. They're kind of delegitimizing themselves as well, undermining the credentials of being the champion, the status of that.
And they're taking away 2 heavyweight title fights. Because Ngannou could defend against Lewis and then probably turn around and later this year face Gane, which, by the way, is super compelling, and you might not get it now. Because if Lewis wins, I mean, I get it. These guys will obviously go for that interim belt because then they can get pay-per-view points off the Ngannou fight, and that's going to get them more money, and I totally get it from their point of view. It's worth the risk for them. But just as a fan, it just pisses me off. Like, it pisses me off massively.
I found something to disagree with you on there, Joe.
What's that?
It's not worth the risk for Derek Lewis.
If he said no, he would make the fight Miocic versus Gane maybe for an interim title fight. Like, I don't think.
Okay, but they still need, like you said in Houston, they still need to get Lewis on there, don't they? Doesn't that put him in a strong position there?
I guess so. Or it might be the case then they're like, all right, we're not going to do Gane. We'll do Gane and Ngannou next, and we'll do it in September.
Maybe Lewis would want Miocic. Actually, I think he would be happier with that than Cyril Gane. Guy with a much bigger profile, former champ. I much prefer that fight.
Yeah, and Gane is again one of these guys like we mentioned about Hall, not easy to look good against. No. And I don't know.
It's another terrible matchup for Derek Lewis, but he continues to confound the doubters. So we'll get to that anyway.
Yeah, we'll get to that next month. But there's our initial feelings on it, and as I said, Ngannou with a different promoter would be a superstar. Like, I just think about like how Canelo Alvarez in his last 2 fights, he's been promoted by Eddie Hearn for those 2 fights. The one against Billy Joe Saunders, 80,000 people in Texas going to see that. The previous fight, no, not the previous fight, the one before that against I can't remember who, but again comes out and there's a Mexican mariachi band doing the final countdown, and there's like fireworks going off, and he's presented as this star, and it's just ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, the other big news with a fight from 2002 in September, Nick Diaz finally returns after 9 years away. When was his last fight? It was a long time. It was a long time ago.
It was another era, Joe. It was quite some time. Almost.
It quite literally is. I mean, this is what
pre-USADA,
pre-Rousey, pre-Rousey, right? Right. His last fight was in 2015, so it wasn't pre-Rousey, against Anderson Silva, which was he lost, but was turned into a no contest because of 2 dodgy drug tests. And then he fought George St. Pierre and lost in 2013. Fought Carlos Condit, who was, by the way, also on the prelims of this card, in 2012. Our boy Carlos Condit, both big fans of Carlos Condit. 2012. His last win was against BJ Penn in 2011, when beating BJ Penn meant something.
Okay. Wow.
And now now he's facing Robbie Lawler, whose last win was in 2016, 2017.
Yeah, Lawler's been the low-hanging fruit in the rankings division for a while, but no one's really been able to pick it. He's been protected.
He's hard to look. Again, he's one of those where I feel like he's hard to look good against, in a way, like, because I feel like his leg.
Tyron Woodley looked pretty good.
Well, Woodley did, and so I think Covington looked good as well against him. But like when Neil Magny beat him, it was a bit like Magny should really have been finishing him. And Askren had that weird win against him, and RDA had that win where Lawler had, I think he tore the muscles in his knee, didn't he? His ACL and LCL. But like, again, I feel like this is completely the right fight. Two veterans fighting, but it's hard for me to get excited about it in reality because it's like these two should be fighting in Bellator. This is a Bellator.
And then you would be excited.
No, then I wouldn't watch it, and that'd be fine.
No. Well, yeah.
Then I'd watch the 30-second YouTube highlights and go like, well, that looks sad.
Yeah, very true, very true. I guess it's another fight that's in that like alternative to the rankings. You know, like it's
yeah,
should I call these guys prize fighters, veterans fight?
Veterans.
Old boys Sunday League type thing.
Yeah, it is. It's two veterans fighting, which is who they should be fighting. Dan Hardy said it. You know, he offered to fight Nick Diaz. Obviously, they're not going to do that fight because who the fuck would watch that? But like again, it is the right fight, but to the fact that's the co-main event to Volkanovski versus Ortega, it's a bit mad, isn't it? I don't know.
Bizarre.
It is bizarre.
But it's a curiosity, you know. The more we talk about it, the more intrigue I get.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, I mean, what? Come on. Is Nick Diaz in a completely different state to his brother? You know, is he confined to, you know, this comedy fight kind of division, and his brother isn't? It's to me they're one and the same. I imagine you'll see a similar skill set and a similar output.
I guess. I mean, I don't think the skill set's really going to change, but it's like, I guess at least with Nate, he fought Pettis, Masvidal, and Edwards in his last 3 fights.
And got completely outclassed by 2 of them.
Actually, I guess Pettis is more in the veteran fighter.
He is, yeah.
Sort of thing. As we've seen in the PFL, where he has lost 2 fights.
That's true. Well, to quote you, that's sad.
It is indeed. Anyway.
Joe, let's get to UFC 264.
Sean O'Malley versus Chris Moutinho.
Who?
Who indeed? Chris Moutinho. Not João Moutinho, who plays for Wolves in Portugal. He is a fighter who is fighting Sean O'Malley.
Is that all we've been able to rustle up on?
I don't even know what to make of. I don't even know what to make of this. To be honest, he has fought. I think he's fought 3 times this year, right?
Well,
he's the number.
Kevin Holland.
Yeah, he's the number 7 bantamweight in New England. Huh?
Is that his moniker?
Yeah. No, he's no,
Phil,
that's a
number 7 ranked bantamweight.
Chris,
from
not
the southern
Phil.
part of New England.
Chris, not Phil. Phil Moutinho.
Sorry.
Oh damn! Yeah, this is not looking good for Chris Moutinho or Phil. No, he's the number 7 ranked active bantamweight in New England, the number 13 ranked active bantamweight in the northeast of America, and the number 49th ranked active bantamweight in the US of A.
Okay.
Huh? So yeah,
well.
top 50 in America. I think in terms of the world, you know, I wouldn't back him against, you know, Kyoji Horiguchi or anyone like that, but he's you know, that's pretty something.
Well, I think of all those statistics, I would adopt top 50 in the US rather than
the number 7
7
in New England.
Yes.
No, I agree. I think, look, has he been knocked out twice in his last 4 fights? Yes. However, has he won his last 2 fights? Yes, he has. Yep. 1 by arm triangle choke, 1 win by punches, according to Tapology. I did watch one of his fights. Well, not one of his fights. I skimmed some of it, but it was mostly him.
Dedication to your craft. Where did you find that? Someone shared it on WhatsApp. Old iPhone footage of
yeah,
this fella.
it was on one of those like dodgy Russian sites, where it's got like a beheading on one side and then some porn on the other side. No, it was no, it was on YouTube.
You mean your home screen?
Yeah, there he is. No, yeah. So O'Malley by knockout.
Yeah, O'Malley by knockout. Let's move on. I mean, I don't know.
Should we talk about O'Malley for a second?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say perhaps you have some insight into what he's been saying.
I do
in the press.
I do.
Right?
Who is he supposed to be fighting? Louis Smolka,
Mm-hmm.
who I like, good fighter. And then Ricky Simone said, "I'll take that fight."
Yeah.
That'd be a banger. That'd be an absolute banger if he did that fight.
Wouldn't fancy O'Malley there, Joe.
You wouldn't?
No, I don't think he wants a fight like that. Why? Why would he?
Well, what's his name? I just said his name. Ricky Simone said he couldn't make weight in time. So then it's like, well, why did you put your name out there? A little bit annoying, but whatever. So now he's fighting this guy, Chris Moutinho. Phil Moutinho, who's taking his opportunity. I guess he's got a contract with the UFC. Fair play. Maybe you could push him up against the fence and try and work a clinch. I saw that in the fight that I saw. That's all I've got really. It's hard to get excited about this. It's a little bit of a bummer that this is opening the card in a way, because it almost like delegitimizes it straight away. But I don't know. I mean, O'Malley should be. Well, actually, let's talk about this. How do you feel like O'Malley's push is going now in the UFC?
Well, I mean, his performance last time out was mightily impressive. He got back on track, did he not?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we want to see from him against Almeida.
Yeah, it's quite interesting as well if you actually look at his rise at the UFC, if you will. This is his 8th fight in the UFC. Peter Yan, I think, was fighting for the title in his 8th fight in the UFC. And I believe McGregor was as well, fighting for the title in his 8th fight. Right, so he's not getting the super push that some people think he is. He's getting a bit of a slow burn here, which I prefer, to be honest. Particularly, for him, I prefer it because I don't think I could handle watching him promote a big time fight right now, because he's so irritating to me. Just as a person, I find him irritating. I disapprove of the fact that he's refusing to accept that Marlon Vera beat him. Have you heard his excuse for that?
No, give it to me.
There's no way he planned to kick me in the leg and for my foot to go numb. And it's like, well, did he kick you in the leg? Because he didn't do that by accident. And did your foot go numb? Yes, it did. So that was obviously a result of him kicking you in the leg. So he did damage to you, and it resulted in you not being able to stand, and then you getting elbowed in the head multiple times to the point where the referee had to stop the fight. So is that not a legitimate loss?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say I found him thoroughly obnoxious and immature and arrogant and entitled and all those things. And his train was very much derailed against Vera. But then, that also kind of took a bit of press attention away from him, and there was definitely a backlash against him.
Yeah.
And then to see him come through and put that performance on against Almeida, which was exhilarating, it was a great pleasure to watch that fight. Really have to credit O'Malley there, and now I'm interested again. Probably he'll start getting more exposure, and I'll have the same reaction again. But,
Yeah, I mean, I've taken the now stunning move of actually not watching stuff if there's stuff in it that I don't particularly want to see. And Sean O'Malley's at the top of that list of things I don't want to see in terms of talking. I just want to see him fight because he's so talented. He's so absolutely talented. And I think, when he beats Chris Moutinho, he should fight someone legitimate next.
Wow. Yes. I mean, that division is absolutely stacked.
Yeah.
And of course, when you say he's getting maybe not quite the rocket thrusters, I think it's quite hard to pick people out in the rankings that are kind of easy marks for him.
Well, Dominic Cruz would be the one I'd be looking at.
Okay.
Merab Dvalishvili, I would absolutely not put him in there.
No.
I would not have put him in there at all. Although, do you know who he is fighting next, Dvalishvili?
No.
Marlon Moraes in September. Poor Marlon. Jeez.
Poor Marlon. Wow, he's really just fallen off a cliff, hasn't he?
What about Cody Garbrandt?
Against O'Malley? I mean,
yeah.
That makes sense, of course. That's gotta happen.
Yeah, Jose Aldo's fighting Munoz. That makes
Aldo O'Malley?
Marlon Moraes again?
No, Aldo O'Malley.
No, not for me. I think Aldo would eat him up.
Smoke
to be
him.
honest. Yeah, he'd smoke him. Frankie Edgar maybe. It's getting a bit washy.
He is, yeah, but you just don't want to face O'Malley up against someone like that. You want someone who's gonna trade and leave themselves exposed. Overcommit to things.
What about Marlon Vera? Could have him again. Right, let's move on from this fight because we're giving it way too much.
Way too much.
Way too much.
I thought that'd be a 10-second segment and done, but
sorry, I got so excited thinking about Phil Moutinho getting smoked that I just needed to keep talking about it. Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Chris Moutinho. Whatever. Irina Aldana versus Yana Kunitskaya. Tom, take it away.
Well, I can't say much without revealing my pick. So I'm reluctant to say anything at all because all I have to say is what my pick is.
Can I? All right.
So let me invite you in to say a few words on either fighter.
Aldana is a
Mexican. I did pick that much up.
Yes, she's Mexican. She lost to Holly Holm in her last fight because she didn't want to go towards her left high kick because she thought she was fighting prime Mirko Krokop for some reason. And then just circled to Holly Holm's right, which was easy to deal with for Holm. And to be honest, I think Kunitskaya is a better fighter. So I've gone with Kunitskaya by decision.
I've gone with Kunitskaya by decision.
Look at that. Let's never talk about that fight again. Let's onwards and upwards.
Is it?
Let's
go on. Who is it first? It's Tai Tuivasa.
Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa versus Greg Hardy. Do you know Greg Hardy's nickname? I'm setting you up here.
Hammer of the patriarchy or something. I don't know.
God of Prince of War.
Yeah, that's it.
He said something which I found a little bit interesting, was that he wanted Tuivasa because he said Tuivasa's not going to try and take me down, which then makes me think he wants to stand and bang with Tuivasa, which is something I would not recommend if I'm Greg Hardy's coach.
No, it is a slightly intriguing matchup. We only briefly exchanged a few ideas before coming live to our listeners this evening, and we were both saying this was one we're going back and forth on. If it's a stand-up fight, Joe, you're confident Tuivasa's superior boxing would see him through?
Yeah, and also I think I'm hoping, at least in my mind's eye, that his takedown defense will have improved at some stage in the last couple of years. Maybe I'm being a bit optimistic here. Do you remember that fight he fought? Was it Spivak?
Yeah, I was about to reference that. Yeah, I was about to just check.
Yeah, Spivak, where
appalling.
Where he was just lying on his back. I mean, I did feel bad for him because his mate was murdered the day before the fight. I think one of his best friends was murdered the day before the fight, and it was just like, yeah, I could probably see why he wasn't totally in there. By the way, do you remember this? He headlined a UFC fight night. Do you remember that?
I don't.
Against?
I probably remember the fight.
Against JDS.
Yeah, okay. Didn't JDS piece him up? Come on, Junior.
Yeah, he did. Round 2 finish. It was pretty easy for him. Again, JDS not the greatest wrestler in the world, took him down and just sat on him and punched him in the head. That was pretty much it. So I feel I'm slightly not worried for Greg Hardy, but I'm thinking, why is Greg Hardy thinking I want to stand and bang with this guy? He should try to take him down. But if I'm going to go with his word, and I am going to go with his word, short work for Tuivasa.
Yeah, people have been there and
doesn't go well.
Paid the price for that.
Stefan Struve.
No, I meant people taking Greg Hardy's word for something. Police were able to evade that trap.
Yeah.
And you should too, Joe. I can't see him not incorporating perhaps takedowns, into his own game. And I can't see that his coaches would be saying, go and trade hands with Tuivasa in a straight boxing match. That would seem completely foolish. That's the only area Tuivasa has looked decent in. Unquestionably got heavy hands, young guy, quite powerful. And I don't want to say Hardy's got more to his game than that, but what we have seen from him is durability.
Yeah.
Obviously superior athletes. He's got the reach on him. He's got the weight on him. And Hardy's had quite a steady career, hasn't he? He started off kind of banging fools out, and then made a slightly higher grade of competition, and been stuck in the mud a little bit. But at the same time, he's not he's not been derailed really.
No,
not been humbled.
Yeah, I think whenever he takes that step up, the fact that he fought Volkov is insane.
Yeah, it is.
Although he did take that on very short notice, which again, fair play.
And he went the distance, Joe.
Did go the distance, yeah. So again, fair play to him for that. But whenever when he fights, Juan Adams, Jorgen De Castro, Maurice Green, he can beat those guys. But Alexander Volkov lost to him. Marcin Tybura lost to him. Tai Tuivasa.
The question is he stepping up in competition there? Is he going to another tier fighting Tuivasa? I'm not sure he is.
I think Tuivasa is maybe just a bit below Tybura as a mixed martial artist, but maybe as a striker, I think he's of that level. Tybura is always a bit of a hard one to judge someone against.
I think Tybura smokes Tuivasa. Just putting that out there.
I don't know if he smokes him. I think he would beat him. I don't know. Whenever you say he would smoke him, I'm expecting a pretty brutal knockout, to be honest. Although, do you remember the Hardy Tybura fight?
No, to be honest.
Pretty convincing for Tybura. Knocked him down, ground and pound. Referee comes in and saves Hardy. That was how that went for him. So that's let me hear your prediction first. I've led on the last two.
Hardy decision.
I've gone Tuivasa knockout.
Wow. Has he been knocked out on the feet before, Greg Hardy?
Well, the Tybura knocked him down and finished him on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go Tuivasa knockout. I think if it stays on the feet, I don't think Hardy has anything to really hurt him. Well, he can hurt him, but I don't think he can beat him there at all. Again, we're giving that fight way too much airtime. Let's get to the good shit, the straight dope. Gilbert Burns versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
Yeah, now we're talking. Yeah.
Now we're cooking with gas.
Main card, top tier, big names and amongst contention.
This is by the way a superb fight. This is old school UFC karate guy versus jiu-jitsu guy. This is
MMA.
This is MMA. This is sublime. This is two of Irene Aldana, Yana Kunitskaya, Tuivasa, Greg Hardy. No offense, but that is shit compared to this. This is pure goodness, and in a way, almost the best fight out of all the fights, prelims and main card, if you could even go that far. But My God, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson defies logic. Really, 38 years old, top welterweight contender. This is really his last run. What else do you think he needs to do to get to a title shot?
This is the big question, isn't it? This is the one slight issue with this fight. Is you would have thought both of these guys with a win here must be really knocking on the door, especially Wonderboy. But that doesn't appear to be the case. There are more people ahead in the queue.
Yeah, it's weird that Thompson, who has been active, beating Jeff Neal, Vicente Luque, fighting Burns in his next the fight on Saturday. I believe, by the way, out of the top 5 welterweights currently in the UFC, that obviously that aren't Usman. So Covington, Edwards, Masvidal, Burns, and Wonderboy. Wonderboy is the only one out of those 5 to have a win against a top 10 currently ranked opponent. And he's got 2. I believe Jeff Neal is maybe Jeff Neal's just slipped out, but Vicente Luque is ranked inside the top 10, and he's the only one to have a win over a ranked opponent, which just goes to show it's a bit of a mess. Welterweight, really, and I think that it's become a bit stagnant just because actually Covington hasn't fought, and he's sitting on the fact that Dana White loved that first Usman fight so much that he's willing to give him the rematch, just basically based off of that.
Joe, I love that fight.
Yeah,
I love that fight.
Yeah,
just reference that fight, and you're gonna lead me down. Lead me away for 5 minutes there, because I think Covington is head and shoulders above. Well, hold on. Head and shoulders too much. A forehead above the rest. I want to see him fight Usman. It doesn't have to be next. I could have waited. I could have seen Covington versus, say, Edwards or someone like that. But he's right there. He's right there because that first fight, it was so good. It was really close. They've got the history together. They both look absolutely imperious against everybody else.
Hold on. Covington, his last 3 wins are RDA, Robbie Lawler, and Tyron Woodley.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I guess, Woodley, he was the second train to run over Woodley, right? After Usman.
Third.
And then Burns was the third.
No, Burns, it was Usman, Burns, and then Covington.
Yeah, okay, that it takes a little bit of shine off of that then.
No, I do agree with you that I think he is the second best welterweight in the UFC behind Usman.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think he is that good, and I think he probably is Usman's most difficult fight in the division, up until obviously when Hamzat reappears at some point, hopefully in the next couple months, and the Phoenix rising up. I feel for Wonderboy, because I know that if he beats Burns, he's going to have to win another fight before he can get a title shot, and there's not that much time left on his career.
It certainly looks like that to me as well. Of course, if he did it with a huge highlight reel finish, that could change things. If he dished out some extra loving to someone in the post-fight interview, maybe you could lure Masvidal out of some hole and him a dirty one.
Masvidal is not taking that fight at all. He is never taking that fight again.
No.
If he knows what's good for him.
I meant more if he could just assault some random person.
Oh, right.
And get some headlines, that might do it.
Yeah. By the way, personally, I think they should do Edwards Masvidal next.
Ooh, I like it, Joe. I want to see that.
5-round co-main You know, like what they just did. Make that a 5-round co-main, and let Leon Edwards smack him up a bit. Anyway, sorry, I got my national pride took over for a second there. Sorry, let's go back to Stephen Thompson and Burns.
Well, so we're in agreement then that a win here for Thompson isn't enough to put him up next for the belt.
It should be.
Like,
it should be, but it's not.
Well, except for, you know, the fact you got Leon Edwards there on one of the longest streaks of all time, and Covington, who is the legitimate, you know, number
contender.
2 guy.
Yeah. No, I agree.
What about Burns? He's a fight more further back, isn't he?
Yeah, I think Burns.
Whilst Usman is champ.
I think if, let's say, Burns beats Wonderboy, and then let's say Covington beats Usman, I'd say Burns would be one fight away from getting that title shot. As long as Usman is champion, I don't see Burns getting a title shot for a while. I think he would have to put on. I think he'd have to win like 4 fights in a row, and he'd have to beat Wonderboy. He'd have to beat a Chiesa. He'd have to beat a Hamzat. He'd have to then beat a Covington to get that title fight. Like it's going to be a bit of a road for him to get back there, but he can do that. And I think if he can beat Wonderboy, that is going to show that he really is of that level, because that's a tough cookie to crack. And it's whether he is actually going to do it and do the things that the past couple fights just haven't done. Kick Wonderboy in the legs, for goodness sake, man. Like, it's not that difficult. I mean, I rewatched the Luque fight, and the memory of it seems to be that Wonderboy pieced him up. He didn't. Luque won the first round of that fight, and he landed some big shots on Wonderboy. The second round was close, but Wonderboy won it. In the third round, Wonderboy put it on him, knocked him down. Clear win in the end. But again, Luque just did not invest in any leg kicks whatsoever. And I know a 3-round fight, the leg kicks aren't going to pay off in the same way that it would in a 5-round fight. I get that. But I really feel like if Burns commits to those leg kicks, and I feel like he will, he's got Henry Hooft as his coach. He's had Raymond Daniels in as a sparring partner for this camp. I think he's probably going to invest in these leg kicks, and I think he's going to try and go for it. I don't know if it's going to succeed, but I would hope if Burns is smart enough to go for that.
Yes, we both know it's not quite that easy, is it? Just,
no.
Step in on Wonderboy and take out those legs of his, limit his movement. I mean, we have seen a certain Johnny Hendricks, big rig, stepping into that space. All right, he wasn't necessarily trying to work the leg kick game, but he wanted to impose a wrestling game on Wonderboy, and found himself in that kind of Derek Brunson Adesanya space where he was, lunging wildly across the ring.
Yeah.
And so of course it's not quite as simple.
No.
Against a man who can control the distance as well as Wonderboy.
Yeah. And also considering the last time the time before that he lost was to Matt Brown, and Matt Brown pulled that off, but Wonderboy didn't have much of a takedown defense at the time. Since then, obviously, he's developed that and has added that sort of multifaceted quality that you need in MMA to succeed. And Gilbert Burns doesn't have the best takedowns. Let me hear your prediction if you want to go into it.
Well, Joe, I think I've taken it from you there. You've kind of led me towards the fact that I think you've picked Gilbert Burns. So it's with great joy that I tell you that I have picked Stephen Wonderboy Thompson to win by decision, of course, to outpoint him.
Yeah, he's not going to knock Burns out in this fight. Especially because I've got Gilbert Burns by decision in this fight. I feel like Burns will have enough to cause Wonderboy problems on the feet.
In your view of that, is it okay? You're seeing surely you're seeing Burns impose some sort of top game on Wonderboy and
Yeah.
at least or control him against the fence.
Yeah.
Neutralize him with grappling and wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and his way in there is through leg kicks. Early on.
Yeah, early on. First round, use those leg kicks. Try and get that in. Try and disrupt his timing. Try and disrupt his movement. And then second, third round, try and work towards a clinch and a takedown. That is how I see Burns doing it.
I think that Burns is pretty much a perfect foil for Wonderboy, really. I think he's exactly what Wonderboy is training for. Somebody who needs to come into that space, who's most comfortable on the mat or in close range with him, who's got that eagerness to close.
I think my issue with that, though, is that if you look at the last two fights Wonderboy has had with Jeff Neal and Luque, is that those two guys are kind of happy to be punching bags to then give a shot, whereas Burns' side-to-side movement is a lot better than those two, in my mind. And Luque obviously uses his granite-like chin to get that. I mean, I love Vicente Luque. He's, top 10 favourite fighters currently today. But he is a bit of a punching bag at times. And I feel like Burns' movement and his sort of like lateral movement will be enough to sort of like get out of the way of Wonderboy's straight kicks, those kicks to the bodies. And
Kamaru Usman's jab has a strong riposte to what you're saying there.
Fair enough. But I'm going to go Burns by decision.
All right. Yeah.
So it's nice to, by the way, for us to be somewhat different in our predictions and point of view on this, because it's like, O'Malley by knockout is so obvious.
Yeah.
And Kunitskaya by decision is incredibly obvious as well. So, I appreciate the sort of like different tone that we take with these fights.
Yeah, I mean, it's the difference between like being almost an unbroken champion and being someone who's
no such thing as an almost unbroken champion. You're either unbroken or not.
Well, what is it Sean O'Malley said? I'm mentally undefeated.
Mentally undefeated, yes, exactly.
Mentally unbroken.
Well, speaking of mentally broken, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. McGregor's somewhat absent from promotion, although the press conference, I believe, has just finished as we're recording this.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching that immediately after we finish.
Who's on there? Is it just the top two?
Just the two of them.
No Burns and Wonderboy.
No Burns, Wonderboy. I believe it's just the two of them. Fans in there, everything like that. So it's going to be a terrible fucking experience of watching it. Right. What is it about McGregor that makes it so difficult for me to commit to not picking this guy? What is it?
It's the rise. It's the perfect highlight reel rise and the kind of mass hysteria and euphoria that accompanied it. It's just I experienced the same kind of psychological trap. I just can't stay away from it. Every time I watch him reel out those golden lines from pre Mayweather, let's say Mayweather era. And my heart gets lifted, and
it's hard, isn't it? It's hard.
Truly,
it's really, really hard to not become intoxicated with him.
With what he was,
and you see that in his fight style, and you maybe even see that with him mentally, because you have to realize with that Mayweather fight, he made all the money in the world. He made so much money off that fight, and that's ultimately why you get into prize fighting, is for the prize. And he got it. He got the fight. He conned everyone.
Yeah.
He fought the best boxer of a generation.
Yeah.
And somehow convinced some people that he could have won, which is insane. He hoodwinked people. That was his greatest achievement in a way, even more so than the Alvarez win or the Aldo win or whoever.
Sure.
It was that achievement. And then, he comes back and fights Khabib, and obviously he did as well against Khabib as anyone has done against him in lasting for that time, but still, ultimately got dominated and defeated. No shame in that. It's just the in-between time of beating Alvarez and having the Mayweather fight, whilst he was doing that, Dustin Poirier evolved. Dustin Poirier put in the miles, he switched up his style. Well, he didn't switch up his style, he added wrinkles to his game. He improved as a fighter, and in his own words, no longer enjoyed fighting, which in a way I feel like almost makes him better because he's not emotionally attached to this. He can just be as clinical as he needs to be with this. And I think that has been the issue that I've been sort of thinking about over the last couple months leading up to this fight is, can McGregor in 6 months make up for everything that Poirier has added in the last 5 years?
But it's interesting because I come at it because of my one-sided, irrepressible Conor McGregor bias that's been kind of implanted in me. I come at it from the other angle, which is that rather than looking at Poirier's improvement, I can't help but look at Conor and his
regression.
Whether or not, whether he has declined. Psychologically, it's quite clear that he was abusing himself.
What do you mean by what partying?
Yeah. I mean the press conference with Khabib, just all of that show. That was not the work of a healthy man. There are a few pictures out there with strippers and cocaine, and probably if you look at your home screen and just not the left side that you were telling us about, but the right side, you probably find
some of those women. I would love to see like one of those like 30 for 30 documentaries about his camp for the Khabib fight. Like, have you heard some of the things about this camp at all?
Well, refresh us.
He had apparently just a hotel, like 3 or 4, couple suites or whatever, in a hotel near where he was training, with just some Dagestani fighters in there, whatever. He'd turn up at 2:00 in the morning to the gym, would call up, be like, yeah, we'll get one of them down here, and he would just have a fight with them. That was his training camp for that fight. He was not in the game at all. He was just not committed to it.
Was that under the kind of purview of SBG, or was that you'd broken free from Kavanagh at that point?
No. I mean, him and Kavanagh have had a weird relationship for the last couple of years where, Kavanagh and him had not a falling out per se, but just sort of like a drift, if you will. And Kavanagh saying that, like, I don't coach him, I don't tell him what to coach, he tells us what he needs coaching. It's just like, that is some number one bullshit right there. No great fighter can go around saying, I'm my own coach. Tony Ferguson pulled it off for a number of years, and he got very lucky going on the run that he went on because he was just that skilled, he was just that tough that he was able to get away with it. But when you're this guy who fights once a year, once every 2 years, and you're fighting the best of the best no matter what, you're going to get found out. And someone like Dustin Poirier, who is training with some of the best coaches in the world. Mike Brown is one of the best coaches in the world. Very smart coach, great game planner. He's improved fighters. Multiple. You can look at multiple examples of fighters who have improved since training with him. Jorge Masvidal being one of them. Kyoji Horiguchi being another one. Joanna Jędrzejczyk being another one. Colby Covington being another one. Dustin Poirier as well. He's got a track record of improving these guys. And as I said, if you've had 5 years of improvement and you're facing a guy who was not in the game and who still believes of himself to be a champion, I mean, but doesn't really work like a champion.
Yeah, it's absurd, Joe. It's absurd, and he was found out, of course. in the last fight. You know, he was not prepared for Poirier's game plan.
No.
He wasn't aware at all of quite a basic facet of the game, really.
Yeah, I mean the calf kicking being one, the fact that Poirier could take him down, like he seemed almost surprised by that.
Well, his vulnerability when he's overextended on that left, searching with it to the right hook.
Well, yeah, and it's quite interesting because Poirier realizes something about McGregor, is that McGregor doesn't throw combinations either. He'll throw jab, left, big left coming straight down the pipe, and then maybe a right uppercut coming through. But after that third strike is thrown, that's it. So then, once you go past those first three strikes, Poirier can then just start throwing and putting it on him and not giving him that time to sort of take a breath and reset and take, he can tire McGregor out by just making him work, by making him throw, because McGregor landed on Poirier, but he didn't knock him out. And Poirier even said as much, that he landed on me and it hurt, but I could take it. I could take these shots. Like, it wasn't going to be the end for me. I see a guy who's battle hardened, a guy who is developed, against someone who is in reality quite easy pickings. If you look at it 1-to-1, like put them next to each other, it's just that thing about McGregor is just so undeniable. And then when you hear top fighters and whatever else picking McGregor, and you're thinking, well, they must know something. They must know something. Because if everyone was saying Poirier, in my mind, I would just be concrete of just, this is what it's going to be. But the fact that so many people believe in this guy, even to this day, despite all the evidence, despite the fact he looked so flat-footed in that first fight, despite the fact he threw no kicks. Like, McGregor at his best, he's throwing kicks, which then set up his punches and disguise his punches and, that sort of create range and distance so that he can be like, put the distance away, and then he can move, he's got something to move forward into so that he can line up his left. There was none of that in that last fight. He was so flat-footed and his chin was out there. And Poirier landed some beautiful counters on him. And I'm sorry, I'm slightly rambling and dominating this conversation right here, but it's so frustrating for me to watch in a way, because I just wish I could just be so definite about this fight, but I'm really not.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how.
No.
I mean, you've said as much for you about it's an emotional thing in a way, or not even an emotional thing, but a mental thing of like, can I get through this almost like a McGregor block in my mind? Because he's it's England winning a few games in the group stages, and or even looking half decent in the friendly before the tournament. Yeah,
and you start to wonder. Your head tells you no, but your heart, it's still just maybe. Is this could we? No, I mean, but maybe.
Yeah.
And then by the time you're actually playing, any team that isn't in the top five, you're thinking, yeah, we're gonna steamroller them, and that has proven to be the case this year, Joe. So I'm going to lay it out for you right now. Conor McGregor's going to TKO Dustin Poirier.
No way.
And England are going to win the European Championships.
Is this your actual prediction?
That's my prediction. That's my prediction.
You've just had an absolute...
All romance, no numbers, no facts, all beauty. Love is real.
Oh my God. Listeners, Tom has just had a meltdown on the air. That is an absolutely insane prediction. I'm going with Dustin Poirier by decision.
By decision? Wow, I'm surprised by that one, Joe.
You know what I was looking at earlier? I was looking at the odds of Dustin Poirier by submission.
Okay.
Pretty tempting, I'm not going to lie. Pretty tempting. I think McGregor will make adjustments to counter what Poirier showed him in that last fight. I just feel like Poirier has enough and has different elements to his game, and he has a gas tank as well. He can work in the third, fourth, and fifth round, whereas McGregor can't. And I think, I actually am somewhat regretting my decision to go with decision already.
I can see it in your face. I'm surprised by that.
Yeah.
For all the logic you've given us there, it sounds like Conor will be very vulnerable.
Yeah, I do think he's vulnerable, but I think he is tough enough to go through to a decision. I think I'm going to go with decision. there's still that McGregor block for me. There's still that McGregor block. I mean, I've jumped over it. You're deep in the mud and unable to get through that wall. And I know that saying like, my head says Poirier, my heart says Poirier as well. I want Poirier to win this fight. This guy.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, I want him.
There isn't like some drama and some. No, I mean, Dustin. From everything you see from him, the way he handles himself, the way he speaks, he's a very humble, upstanding representative for the sport, his charity work, of course, but he truly seems to kind of want to be the embodiment of those goals and someone for people to look up to. It's very hard to not want a guy like that to win against a character like McGregor, who's obviously covered himself in shame on a number of occasions, and the man that he was behind the mask is been revealed. Nonetheless, he gave us some incredible sporting moments, and as you say, I'm still wedded. I'm still wedded to that boy inside us all.
I know. The Eddie Alvarez win, by the way, was 5 years ago, and I just want you to think about that. That was 5 years ago. So I'm going to suggest that maybe you've
time to let go.
Time to let go. It's either way. I think it's going to be a fascinating fight. One in which I honestly can't envision any way it's going to be a bad fight. Like, it's not going to be a stalemate, is it? It's not going to be like, a clear domination of someone playing it safe. It's going to be two guys going for it, isn't it? Right?
I think these guys are too dangerous to play safe. I think they both have too many weapons.
Have you seen the video of Poirier dropping that guy in training that Covington tried to? Which was ridiculous.
A whole load of nothing. Yeah.
And by the way, it was the fucking same shot that he lands on everyone. That right jab, left straight, stepping through, and then a right straight coming back through. It's like nobody ever reads it. Fucking reads it, and he lands it every time. He landed it against Conor in the second fight, I should say. But yeah, those are my predictions there. Let's run through them all again as a quick reminder before we wrap this up. We've both gone for O'Malley by KO and Kunitskaya by decision. You have gone for Greg Hardy?
By decision, that's right, Greg Hardy.
Oh, that fight is going to be grim. I've gone for Tuivasa by knockout. I'm hoping for a painless experience watching that. Wonderboy Burns.
Yeah, we're divided again. I've had a decision for Wonderboy.
And I've gone for Burns by decision. And then the main event, I've gone for Poirier by decision.
Whereas I've gone for Conor McGregor by TKO, baby.
What round is he going to do it in? Wow, that's a big pause. That's a big pause.
I mean, these are the practical questions I've not asked myself in making that prediction, Joe. The third.
The third?
The third, yeah. The third.
Jesus. By the way, I was looking at... I'll try and find the odds if I can find them again. Just give me a minute here. But
I have. But on what? Odds on?
Poirier by submission. It was. I had it in the third round as well. I was looking at it. Let me just bring it up again. Sorry, I'm sorry, listeners. This is. There is the bet slip that I was going to have. Decided not to go with that. By the way, interesting. What was I going to say? Interesting comments recently from Dricus Duplessis. Have you seen this?
No, Joe.
About him being the, quote, first proper African champion.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop, eject.
Yeah.
What? How am I supposed to interpret that in a
exactly.
white supremacist? White supremacist.
Yeah, that's no good, Strickers. That is poor.
Less of that.
Less of that indeed.
Ngannou, Duplessis, let's make it happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, Dustin Poirier by submission, 3rd round, which is what I was looking at, 120 to 1. Come on, that's worth a couple quid.
Joe, I mean,
That's
a
worth
man who's been. Yeah.
I'm getting paid in a couple hours, so you know where that pay slip is going. 120 to 1.
All right, listeners, pray for Joe. that his girlfriend's away, and the tissue roll's almost finished.
Oh, sorry.
So
hold on, did I get that right? Yeah, no, 120 to 1. Yeah, no, it's. I think that's a banker. Put the mortgage on it, listeners.
Yes. Until next time. Thank you, everybody.
I'm trying to get away from my sound financial advice there. No, fair enough. Yeah. Yes, thank you very much for listening. UFC 264 will be this Saturday night going into Sunday morning. No episode next week, I'm afraid, because I'm on holiday, which is good timing. But we will be back probably the following week, I think. We'll do a little catch up, but we'll do some mid-year stuff as well. I think on the next episode. Tom, I don't know if that sounds good to you.
That's a great episode we got lined up there, Joe.
It is a great episode. I've got some opinions.
Oh.
And also...
Not Duplessis style opinions, I hope.
You'll have to listen to find out. No, nothing that strong, but yeah, we'll talk about that. But I believe, let me just double check this, but the following week is, hold on, what's the date on Saturday?
This is the high quality the listeners
yeah, no, this is good. The following week, when we were back recording, we can preview Sandhagen versus Dillashaw.
Oh, there's a note to end on. Beautiful.
That is a note to end on. By the way, only 4 fights announced for that. Only 1 on the main card, which is Sandhagen Dillashaw. 3 on the prelims. Jeez, Brendan Allen's fighting. Hey.
Oh, hey, there we go.
I like a bit of Brendan Allen and Chris Daukaus. Remember him?
Yeah, of course I do.
Against some Shamil something, and then I don't know, someone called Aaron Phillips. Who gives a shit? Anyway, UFC 264 this weekend. We'll be back in a couple of weeks to talk about this. Sandhagen Dillashaw, bit of mid-year MMA conversation, a bit of Euros wrap up. Viva Italia. I've got money on them, so I need them to win. Thank you very much, Tom. I hope Iceland treats you well.
God bless everybody.
Yes.
Okay.
And where in the world is Gunnar Nelson? See you later. Bye-bye.